a paper for my what do you want to be when you
Mhm.
grow up class, and I wrote a paper that I want to be a romance novel cover artist, and they laughed
Very
at me.
specific.
Yeah, they laughed at me and said that's not possible because you're a girl. And
What?
girls don't draw like that. That's not a girl thing. I also had some art teachers they were trying to find me the right fit for like a mentor, and
Mhm.
they looked at my hands and they said there's no way she could be an artist because her hands are too small.
What is this? Middle Ages? Where did you grow up? Were you on Mars? Like, what the fuck?
A
I
little.
mean,
It's a small town. It's the gateway to the San Juan Islands. It's Anacortes, Washington, and at the time, very, very small. And I was the only, really the mixed race. I'm Native American, and so it was a little bit challenging growing up
mhm,
in a very white area that didn't
mhm.
have a lot of room for possibility for apparently girls with dreams. I really need to show them that that's not true. I would steal out of the garbage cans Victoria's Secret magazines so I could so I could start learning anatomy. And I wasn't allowed to have access to even classical art. And I actually started doing paintings in high school, and that's how I supported myself because I was on my own from the age of 14.
What kind of paintings did you do in high
For
school?
at the time, celebrities, sports figures, football, favorite singers,
Oh,
anything like that. I came into it thinking that if I wanted to be a cover designer, that I would have to know how to paint them. That I didn't
mhm,
back in the 80s. This didn't
mhm,
exist. So I knew that I would have to know how to paint them and paint them well.
mhm. Okay.
When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. And in my hour of darkness, she is standing right in front of me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. Let it be, let it be, let it be.
Hello, everyone. This is Miwa Lee, a steamy romance author, and welcome to Desire and Dialogue. I am so thrilled to have a graphic designer with us today, but I also found out that she does other kinds of art, the pole dancing, belly dancing, and the painting kind. So I am so excited to have Dar Albert from Wicked Smart Designs with us here today. Hi, Dar.
Hi.
So nice to meet you. I feel like I'm on a blind date when
Yeah,
we've corresponded through email, but never really talked to each other or even, messaged.
yeah. I call it
Yeah.
e-meeting. So when I get to meet the authors that I work with, it's always really I just end up being a fangirl.
Oh, we never had a graphic designer or a non-author on the show before, but I am just so interested in how the mind of an artist works. So tell us at first about what kind of work you do and how you got into it.
I started my journey to being what I am today when I was 9. I would go to the library and sort of just awe over all of the racks of, at the time, Joanna Lindsay, Beatrice Small, all of the old, really romantic painted covers.
Mhm.
And I was an avid reader even at 9.
Oh,
Uh, so I just said one day, that's what I want to do. I want to know how to do that. And I started
wow.
drawing.
When was your very first topless or nude painting or suggestive painting?
I think 18 or 19.
Do you still have it?
No, I actually sold it.
Oh, did you really? Wow. Must have been good. What was it of?
It was a fairy, and she
Oh,
was on a
okay.
pedestal, so she was half statue and half person, and it was sort of the
Mhm.
animation of that coming to life.
And have you always thought you might become a steamy cover designer?
That was my hope.
Yeah. Even
Yeah,
at age 9,
yeah,
or was that
yeah.
later?
Nope, age 9. I started reading when
Wow.
I was 4. My
Hmm.
first book that I read in kindergarten was The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Um, so
Hmm.
they just
Hmm.
I fell in love with books and reading, and I've had a decades long relationship with romance authors. They've been the longest love of my life.
I know you have done mostly graphic designs for my author friends, myself, and also Dragon Blade Publishing House. Have you done painting, like step backs or covers?
I've done some digitally. I can do them on canvas, but it's sort of cost prohibitive for a lot of authors to invest in that.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
something that I would love to do more of, but it takes
Hmm.
time. And with the covers that I have on deck, it's sort of two loves, one person.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I have to definitely follow publication dates and make sure I get those. But I am hopeful, possibly this fall, to do painting. And I like to put up the steps online as I go because
Mhm.
over the years, I've been told that either I wasn't doing them myself or,
Oh,
yeah. So I like to sketch them, take a picture of it, and then sort of bring people along with the process.
you must get requests for all kinds of romance covers, right? Like
Oh, yeah.
Monster, Omegaverse, and all that stuff.
Even right down
Oh,
to religious books.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Say I said, oh, I want an octopus, but handsomer, and the tentacle is a genital. But
And
like, it's so easy to make it look like a horror.
I think it would have to do with color. It would have to do
Yeah.
with font. It would have to
Hmm.
do with blending techniques. So something maybe a little softer than
Hmm.
more of a that in your face electric kind of color that
Hmm.
you might see on a horror film.
Hmm.
So I think it's taking those sort of cues and then blending those things together.
Oh, and then the smoldering gaze. Like,
Smoldering gaze, it could be the interaction between like
yeah.
the octopus tentacle and the heroine. Maybe there's a way of presenting her face in a way that she's like accepting and loving it and
Hmm.
not fearful or something like that.
So when did you start doing graphic design as opposed to painting?
I went to college in 2000. I graduated in 2008. Before I went, I didn't even know how to turn a computer on.
Hmm.
So I went and I got all of the training just to specifically do this. So I spent every day in college working on how to paint with pixels versus a paintbrush and canvas.
Hmm.
So with the purchase of my first pen tool and tablet, I was able to start really not using a mouse so much
Hmm.
and then just translating what I knew to be true on canvas to the computer screen.
Hmm.
So in 2008, my ex-husband was my boyfriend at the time, played a lot of World of Warcraft, and he was in a raid.
Yeah.
And on the, in the raid, they kind of chat with whomever, and it's strangers, people you don't know.
Yeah.
And one of them was Daryl King from Alora's Cave. And he was in the raid, and he was head of the graphics department. And just jokingly, my ex at the time said, "How does my girlfriend get a job there?"
Hmm.
And he said, "Well, if she's serious, I'll send her an audition." So
Oh,
he sent me an audition, and I passed. And so I worked for a few years before they folded at Alora's Cave. So that was where I got my start.
oh wow. And does your ex-husband have an in with Henry Cavill?
No, no,
Right.
probably best for that reason, so that he stays an ex.
I was gonna say if he does have an in, I'm like, get back with him, do what you can.
Take one for the team.
Oh well, nobody's perfect. So I think you mentioned that you work with several publishing houses. Okay.
Yep. Um, I work for Dragon Blade, which I am proud to say I got to start with Catherine Levesque at the
Mhm.
very, very beginning when she had
Yeah.
this idea.
Oh,
So it's been quite the journey, and to see how it's flourished.
yeah.
More importantly, how authors have flourished in that
Hmm.
particular publishing house has been
Hmm.
amazing. I work for Beyond the Page Publications, which is out of New York.
Hmm.
Mostly cozy covers, which is super
Hmm.
fun to be able to take a break because if you focus only on one genre, everything kind of looks the same after a while. So to break it up and do a mystery cover with
Hmm.
a golden lab on it or something,
Hmm.
that's kind of fun. I work for Oliver Hebert Books,
Okay.
which is does some amazing literary fiction on through romance and fantasy. So it's been really fun there, and I'm sure I'm forgetting a few along the way.
I have worked with you before. You did my Dragon Blade cover, and I mean, both times I was so amazed by how fast you are, how, the quick turnaround time, but also the vision, because it was like you were in my head if I had any creativity in there. Like I didn't know what I wanted, but when I saw the step back for Abducted, I looked at it and went, oh my, this is like way better than what I could have envisioned. But it was just so quick. And same as, the cover for Dragon Blade. I was like, oh my goodness, how does she know? She can do this.
I read romance novels for most of my life,
Mhm.
and they got me through some of the darkest parts of my life. So
Mhm.
I don't do this just because I thought that I could make money at it. It was something that it was a part of me for my whole life. So not doing it or not having these authors in my life, so that I want to always present to them the best that I am able to do for them as a respectful gesture of that affection I hold.
Mhm. Mhm. Yes, I mean, you basically have to be born to do it if at 9 years of age, you're saying,
Yeah,
this is what I want to do for the rest of your life,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about the trend of graphic designs and AI?
It's a complicated question on a couple
Mhm.
different levels, and I think that the best thing to say is you can't follow the pitchforks and torches either direction.
Mhm.
I think that when technology advances, that we either have to adapt an ethical way of being on that journey or get lost and just abandon it entirely. Like I said, I could do traditional covers the old-fashioned way and paint them, but it would take it from being an affordable thing to a luxury thing. And the cost to authors and the time involved would mean I could do 1 or 2 covers a month. But even when you've been doing it for multiple years, I think I've been doing this 16 years now. The stock houses and things, and I always use stock houses or art I've created myself or purchased from photographers, and it's a lot of times provided by the author themselves. They have images or they have links or whatever they have, and so I follow their directions. So with a lot of unethical and ethical use of AI, like Photoshop now is all driven by AI, so losing that is not something that I can feasibly do and still create covers. I can't take Photoshop and throw it away and then say, okay, I'll start over, or even a suggestion that I'm using a Mac laptop and that's AI, so I should get a PC one. And I'm like, cost wise, I don't know if I could do that. And visually, I need the best visuals I can get when I'm working. So it's propelling technology in ways that allow me to world build even more, as far as being able to have expansive ways in Photoshop to present techniques. When it comes to free sites, generated works where you go in and you type some words and this piece of art comes back to you, I don't subscribe to that. I don't ascribe to that. And if you're using it as an author and you're coming into the world and you have this option of using a free program that's going to give you a piece of art and you put text on it, there's a little bit of caution for me in that, because anything that's free is probably somewhere along the lines not ethical. So while I do like that stock houses are implementing their own use of AI within their house, so anything you purchase from them, like I know iStock through Getty Images insures each item that you buy through them at $10,000. There's no they use in-house techniques. They only use in-house imagery. They don't source out into the big wide Google world or do a search like that. So sometimes with what you're asking of the artist, it is oftentimes available through purchase. You could still purchase that, even though it was created through one of the programs in that stock house itself. So that's where it gets a little tricky, because I think that anytime someone sees the word AI assisted or something, they immediately assume that you've just generated a free item and stuck it on the cover. And that's just, if I could get one message out there, that would be that is just not true. And like I said, I've done this for 16 years, and I think the amount of covers I've done are in the 5 figures, possibly really up there. You start to see the same images over and over. And one thing you want is every cover to have its own stamp of uniqueness against others in the market, so that you stand out and the readers understand and can brand you based on that originality. So it's complicated. It's a complicated relationship. And I don't want to go too far either way, saying it's good or it's bad, because there's a good and bad element to it. And we're watching it unfold. It's still kind of in its infancy. But I think one thing for authors to be mindful of as we go through this is that when you've watched the evolution of ebooks online, we've gone from using, in the very, very early days before Amazon really became what it is, you go back to those old school 2006 through 2008 covers, it was 3D models kind of going like that, and they were kind of a little bit wonky, but that was what the technology said that we had at the time. When it left from traditional publishing, where there was a painted cover, to an online cover, it was the 3D models, and it was kind of a little bit hokey by our viewing now. And then with the Amazon becoming more available to independent authors, and then you saw the Stephanie Meyer's effect, is what I call it, because I sort of came into the industry as Twilight was really taking off. Everybody wanted that object cover, the red apple, something being in a hand. So that was kind of a trend. And so the photos sort of becoming implementing stock houses becoming more affordable for people to be able to access images with a price tag that they could afford. And I like going to a movie and seeing the preview, and by the end of the preview you felt like you've already seen the movie. You don't need to go watch it because the preview sort of spelled it all out for you. Didn't leave anything to really make you go, "Ooh, I want to watch that." That's kind of how I feel when you include every single story element that you want to see on your cover. Leave something, catch them with the genre, catch them with the main thing, but you don't have to. I can remember one way many years ago when I was first new. They wanted a chocolate rabbit turned at 45 degrees with a gun placed at a 75-degree angle on a small table made of wood in a stickly style with a dog and a shot. I mean, it was so detailed. And they were so specific, and they wouldn't get out of their head to say it had to be any different. And sometimes it's those things you have to kind of go, I can give that to you, but I'm not sure that it will translate the way you think it will. Because it doesn't leave a lot of legibility.
So what do you do as a graphic designer? I mean, your name is on it per se, maybe not, visually, but you're representing this product, and what they ask for is shit. Like, what do you do?
It doesn't happen very often. I think I can count on one hand over 16 years the covers that I thought. Um, I'm literally the pencil, and the author is providing me the paint, so I can't personally attach myself to every single cover and go, "It's my baby, it can't be changed," and just say, I hope that it attracts the audience and the sales that you want it to for the story inside of it.
Mhm. And do you think nicer book covers sell more books?
If you don't, okay, there's two sides to that. If you don't know the author and they have a good cover, yes.
Mhm.
If you know the author, it doesn't matter what they have on the cover. If it's your favorite author, you're going to buy the book. That's coming just from years of me being an avid reader. It's kind of like when you go to a restaurant and you get the menu, and the menu is full of typos and weird pictures, and you're kind of like, I don't know this restaurant, but it sets the tone. It can set the tone.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just me being so visually picky, but you sort of go, dinner has 3 inns in it or something. It's like
Yeah.
that. So if there's two things you could, as an author, it would be an editor and a cover designer if that's not your forte.
What is the historical romance book cover trend now?
Blending contemporary fonts with historical images is a big one. I think that the reissuing of the Bridgerton covers sort of put that into motion. So taking that very pastoral regency still from the movie, and then over it they put that blocky sans serif font, and so that became a huge trend. I don't mind it. I don't mind it. I'm not mad at it, because those kinds of fonts are easy to set apart from the art, and they're very visually easy to read in thumbnail. But I think it's kind of interesting to make it almost anachronistic, and celebrate that for contemporary readers. And there's a big pull against using cursive or flourishy fonts now, because they're not as accessible to everyone. And so, yeah.
What? What? I was shaking my head because it just bothers me so much when, something becomes popular like Outlander or Bridgerton or,
Hmm.
even Sherlock Holmes. They replace the original cover with
Hmm.
the movie image or the show image, and
Yeah.
that's annoys me. So annoying. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on that?
Um, I mean, I get it. It's all about sales. So if they can put that something identifiably visual that people may have access to, that they don't know the books but they know the movie, I get that. And then hopefully it's about getting this. It's about getting the story out, and it's not about the ego of the original artist. So we want as many readers to be falling in love with something that means a lot, or meant a lot to us in the origination of it, before it ever became a visual, before it ever became a movie. So I celebrate it a little bit. If it's well done, if it's just a random still that they threw up to quickly get a book out, and it doesn't make much sense, and they didn't take the time to really give it the finesse, then I have a little bit of issue with it, especially with something big like, say, Outlander. You really want that to be something iconic that just makes you feel.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I've been reading those books since they were written, so I have a
Yeah, you're
great love of
right.
it.
It's personal. I
It's
take it
personal.
personally. Yeah. But Netflix, if you want to produce my book, then I won't complain. You can put whatever on the cover that you want.
Yeah,
I
it
wasn't
just
complaining.
gets, yeah, it gets more interest into the book itself. And I fully believe that if people would get away from the stigma of the, I'm going to use the word bodice ripper, if they get away from the
Mhm.
stigma of that, and understand that these stories represent so much more than just that, something to be titillated by, that there is a lot of research, there's a lot of thought, there's a lot of character development, there's a lot of the author inside these books that need to get out there. It's a different way of telling a story, and what is wrong with that? Just because it's being presented in a visual way that has this romanticized, windswept feel doesn't negate the fact that the story is valid and
Mhm.
needs to be read.
I agree. I strongly feel that the romance genre is vastly underrated. And I hear a lot of authors, talk about how people treat them when they find out that they're romance authors. And then if they find out that they're indie authors, then there's another
Oh,
layer
yeah.
of stigma added to it. But it's because those people are not necessarily fans, I think. They're not the target readers. They don't know the value and the emotion, and the lessons that can come out of these books.
Exactly. Or who the audience is that really uses these to get through dark times in their life. You don't
Yeah.
always want to be inundated with reality. Sometimes the exiting of reality and then seeing sometimes your own situation reflected in fiction is the best way to work through it.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree with that. It is very therapeutic.
I am the number one shield defender of the romance industry.
So, do you remember any, is there a memorable or the most favorite project you've ever worked on?
I really all night long did not sleep over this question because I don't know how to answer it because for me there's this feeling inside when you open up every single request of what adventure kind of awaits you on the journey of this. So it's like I would always say the one I'm working on right now is the one I am most obsessed with. So it's really hard to get around that. I think that the only thing I can equate without specifically saying that this one author or this one book or this one thing, it's getting to sometimes do the covers on the books that I read back in the 80s and those authors contact me and I'm like, wait, what? What? Wait, I've read this book. And it was way back in the day. So I think for me being able to meet the authors from the 80s and the 90s that I really developed strong readership for when they contact me and they don't even know that. And I'm like,
Is there a rise in the popularity of those cartoonish book covers?
yeah. I don't think because it just naturally evolved that way. I think because Amazon is cracking down so hard on what we can show and not show on a book cover that we've had to develop workarounds for these books to still get out there. So the object cover, the cover with the flowers that sort of intertwine, like the Court of Thorns, or I'm going to say it wrong now, but there's the twiny sort of vines on the cover and the text only. Not having any visual aspect of a person on the cover makes it ad friendly. It gets more BookBub deals. It's easier to put out into the metaverse and have social media grab onto it. So with that came the vector or the more illustrated style. Those are easy to advertise. They get around any kind of censor flags. They get you out of being put in the dungeon of Amazon where they don't promote you.
And I think they are easier to make more distinctive, aren't they?
There's a lot more untapped area as far as that goes, and with that, because it's using Illustrator, it's all math-based vectorization. So it's using math versus using pixels like you do in Photoshop. So it allows you to be more deliberate in what you can present. So if you need a castle, it's going to be this way. If you need a person, it's going to be very this way. With drawing and things like that, there's so many different ways of presenting that artistically. So with that illustrated style, it's kind of an expected style. You can see it. It's there. But like I said, I think it was a necessary thing. Like there's so many restrictions, and every week it seems like there's a new restriction. From when I started till now is so different with what Amazon allows.
Yeah. So what's changed if you can give us a large brush stroke?
When I started, you were allowed to show bare, but you were allowed to show basically erotic images. You were allowed to show close intimacy with the hint with very clear it was nude, without showing the bits. And then it became, well, we can't have them be that close. There needs to be a hint of clothing. Okay. So then it went into, well, they can't really be in a sitting or a laying down pose. Then now it's no male nipple. You can't show, if it's in the LGBTQ plus category, that you're very restricted on what you can show. And that just wasn't the way even in 2012, 2013. And it sort of just, evolved into more pearl clutching from the censors.
Which makes no sense considering what we have access to nowadays.
They always use the excuse that we can't show things like male chest because the kids might see it. And I thought, well, that's kind of weird because you still allow GQ, you allow Maxim, you allow these magazine covers that are sometimes way, way more salacious than anything you're going to see on a book cover. And I highly doubt that there's too many kids researching man chest cover on Amazon. At least that I don't know, but maybe I'm just being crazy on that one. I kind of think that they have access to a lot more on the internet than a romance book.
Yeah, I feel like whatever we are allowed to see outside legally, like at the beach, then we should be able to see them on the cover.
Yeah, and we should. So if we were looking at the way the censors are set up right now, anything that was produced in the 80s, say like a Fabio cover, that would be flagged.
It's really one group's opinion that's affecting the entire industry.
Yes, and it is not regulated enough, so you don't get the same answer depending on who's on the other end of your book submission. So what one author can get away with, maybe another author can't get away with, based only on the person on the other end who said yes or no.
So if an author is thinking about hiring a professional cover designer, what are the important things to look for or ask?
Time frame. If you come to somebody and you realize that your deadline's up, make sure that you've indicated it's a rush and that it needs to happen by a certain date. Can they accommodate that? If you're looking at their portfolio and you've researched them, does it reflect the style that you think will work best for you? Because you can come to an artist and you see what they've done and ask them for something that another artist has done, and they may or may not be able to meet that for you. So having your own sense of style at the forefront, because they could be the best designer in the world, but if their style doesn't mesh with what you hope for, then it's not necessarily the best fit. And there's so many great artists and cover designers out there that there's going to be one that's going to mesh with you the best style-wise. So making sure you've done your research as far as what you think you want, because you have to ultimately live with the product at the end of it. Once the artist is done with it, we sort of go, okay, next one. But it's your book. You're the one that gets to live with the final product. So make sure it's going to be something that in the end you're really going to want to live with.
And if they're thinking about doing their own book cover designs, then what would you recommend that they buy? The number one thing they absolutely must have.
A really good image software like Photoshop. I know a lot of people use Canva. Make sure that you have licenses for all of your images. If you're using free sites, that can be very challenging because that could leave you open. And I think that there are a lot of free sites out there that, although they're great, you can't control who submits the images. And so you don't know if that image was in fact that person's image. That you understand what to and to not include on your cover, what's going to work in it. Because I think it's easy to think of it this big, but again, we have to think in terms of this big.
And what advice would you give to a beginner book cover designer who's entering the field professionally?
Ask yourself how much critique you can take. If you have a sensitive soul and you can't take criticism, or you haven't had the experience of having your art critiqued, it can be soul crushing, because it's not just you and the author who have an opinion. When the book goes live, everyone gets an opinion. And the opinions aren't always going to be roses and sunshine and kudos. They might be. There's going to be a certain, yeah, I know. What? So it becomes this very intimate thing between you and the author. You have to understand, and this is something that I had to learn as well, is that intimacy only lasts until the book goes live. And then it becomes everyone's love affair, or not so love affair, depending on how they take it. But from those, I guess, from those criticisms, you can learn so much more about what to do and not to do as well. If you're only told the good things, you don't grow. So being willing to grow, also to be able to say that you are willing to kill your babies. So you can love this cover, you can love everything about it, you can savor it, dream about it, and think it's the best thing in the world. But if the author doesn't like it, you have to really next and let it go.
Yes, because they're birthing this baby like authors do with our stories.
Yeah, and you're becoming part of the internet zeitgeist. So when your work goes out there, it goes out there, and you don't have control of who sees it. You don't have control of what they think about it, and you don't have control what they say about it.
What is your pet peeve when you get a new assignment?
I think in the beginning it was getting too much information and the expectation of making sure that every single thing is included. So just like editing your book, editing the words, you sometimes have to edit the art expectation as well. So I would say make sure that you are very open to the idea of editing some of those things to make it sellable, because in the end, we both can create wonderful works of art, but they have to sell. So we have to think about what the reader is going to respond to.
And when I asked you for a step back, I think I just said, this is what they look like, the colors, and there are these settings in the book. And you just came up with this amazing image of the female character getting out of the tub and the male character lying in bed and, gazing at her.
Right.
But what was going through your head when you first got my request? How did you come up with that image?
First, it was a lot of joy because this is what I like to do. So to be able to not have the constraints of the Amazon censors or, the thumbnail view, to be able to say, I want a larger scale, more on the saucier side art, and that just made my heart feel joyful. And then you think I have a box of old school romance novels, the kind with the little flap in the front. You'd pull it open and there'd be this wonderful, lush, sort of naughty scene that you just sort of went on. And I put myself in that place of what did it feel like when I would open up the flap and go, swoon. They're in a castle and they're on they're under a waterfall. Ooh. So I actually really I reference those and then I go, what does that look like and how did that make me feel? What colors did I respond to the most as the reader? What colors do I come back to when I think about that kind of view? And so that's where I start from. That's where I started from in that project. And then what do I need to do as the artist? How much hand painting is it going to take? And then I sort of went from there.
Now, on a scale of 0 to 10, how much of a pain in the ass was I? Be honest. 10 being the maximum pain in the ass.
I think
0
you could
being-
fall right in the two. You had a, but that's because you have a point of view and you had a vision. So it was also our first time working together. That tends to get easier the more I work with an author. Like I get to know them really well and what they want. So that's it. And that's not being you being a pain in the ass. It's us discovering our workflow and it's us discovering our point of views. And then how do we make them work together? So there's anytime I work with an author for the first time, there's always that getting to know each other courting period. So we were courting each other through this art. And in the end, we could either swipe left or right. There's my dog. You can see her now. So we were courting each other, and then you make the decision whether or not to put their name on the dance card. And so I put your name on the dance card because I had such a good time doing that cover. To step back, so for me, I was like,
I love it.
I had a belly dance gig one day, and I didn't work with clients in person. I did a lot of phone and computer work, so I had to come in my costume to the office to make it all work. And they kind of like, "What are you doing?" And I said, honestly, it wasn't on the dress code. It wasn't long that they just said, maybe you're better off as an independent artist. And I said, okay.
Well, you were distracting your male coworkers way too much with your hotness. What would you say to a child that wants to become a graphic designer?
Don't let anyone tell you that your hands are too small.
Or that you can't do something because you're a girl, you're Native American.
Everything that they tell you is in their mind going to prevent you are probably the things that they're most scared of. So I say fan the flames on anything that someone tells you is inappropriate. Because that's going to be the fire that's going to keep you warm for many, many years.
There's pile of dishes left. I'm like, I'm creating. I'm changing the world. I don't have time for mundane tasks like housekeeping.
Bottle off. Why? Where's my
Do you want to say where they can check out your stuff or?
Wicked Smart Designs is my website, and it's horribly unupdated because I never have time to do that. So what I've done is included a lot of links for authors I work with pretty regularly, or I have done most, if not all, of their covers. So the best way to research is to go to those links and then just see what's coming up, look at the publishing houses I work for and look at the covers that I've done there. That's the best way to be on top of the most contemporary stuff I'm doing. Unfortunately, if I could update my website as regularly as I want to, it means I'm not doing covers. And so I get to sort of let that go.
So I know you've done my logos. I know you do that. You do step backs, you do book covers. Anything else that you'd like to do more of?
I would say it's not graphic design. It would be traditional canvas painting. I wish I had more time to do that. As far as graphics, I'm happy to take on any kind of project. It's unfortunately right now I can't take on any more web design because those take a very long time and they take up so much time that my covers get backlogged.
We've learned a lot from you today about the process, about good versus bad. It was very insightful. So thank you very much. It was an honor to have you.
Oh, the honor was all mine. It was mine. Honestly, it was mine. I am like, I'll call
I will expect your fan letter very soon.
Oh, good. I'll put a little kiss on it and I'll put it in the mail.
All right. Thank you so much, Dar. It was so nice to meet
you.
Dar Albert, check her out and check out my step back, which she has designed is awesome. All right, everyone. Bye. See you again. Bye.